Logic for the great month of September. Looks like we're gonna miss the hurricanes, and the weather is getting cool already, but nobody's getting any teal, so. But I'm blessed to have with me Jim Delahoussaye, who I grew up with in the basin, in Bayou Pigeon, when they had tarpon and all that. And so, Jim, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
I want you to tell a story about Rudd Gajon and his houseboat in Bayou Pigeon.
Oh my goodness. Just so the audience will know, he didn't tell me this ahead of time. So, I was 12 years old, and my father owned a restaurant in New Iberia called Dell's, oddly enough. And one of the things that you do in a restaurant is you serve beer and mixed drinks and food and all of that, and it has to be delivered. Well, there was a man who was delivering Falstaff beer once a week to my father's restaurant, and his name was Rudd Gajon. And like I say, I was 12, and I'm not quite sure how much you want.
Well, the more details, the better.
About what came out of that?
Right, yeah.
Oh, all right, okay. So I was 12 years old. I was very interested in nature. I could see things around me that I couldn't explain, but I was introduced at some point to fishing. And fishing was wonderful because you could interact with nature. You had nature all around you. You could benefit by things providing you with food if you were successful in catching the fish. Well, Rudd Gajon, even though he was a delivery man for a beer company, he was an expert in the Atchafalaya Swamp. And the Atchafalaya Swamp was one of those places that it was surrounded by the mystery of its wildlife. It was filled with all kinds of wildlife, including lots of different kinds of fish, which, if you knew how, you could learn to catch them, which was a lot of fun. Well, it turns out that Rudd Gajon was an expert at catching these fish and other things in the Atchafalaya Swamp.
Frogs.
And frogs, and he was an expert person with a shotgun, which was the things that he harvested were almost legal.
Yeah, growbacks.
Growbacks, that's right. And but anyway, Rudd Gajon taught me how to function in the Atchafalaya Swamp.
Yeah.
He taught me how to get from one place to another safely. He taught me what snakes not to handle with your hands. He was a wonderful, wonderful guide to a 12-year-old kid that desperately wanted to learn how to function in this wild environment.
Yeah.
So,
And at Bayou Pigeon, that was all the way on the other side. Y'all were coming from, I guess, Sharonton.
yes, we
Yeah.
were coming from Sharonton, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right. Yeah, in
And
those
then
days,
you go through Crew Boat Chute and then Thibodeau Chute. And they had so many fish that if you wanted bait, you could go where Thibodeau Chute hit the lake
that's right.
and just run a boat around in a circle, and the mullets would jump in.
I don't remember it being that easy. But there certainly were a lot of fish in the Atchafalaya Basin, and if you had some knowledge of how to function in that water environment, you could catch fish for bait and for consumption by you. But the fish were available, but somebody had to teach you.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that Rudd Gajon took the time to teach me how to use a cast net. And in those days, we used a 7-foot cast net, which is very difficult for people to use today because when you use it properly, it opens up to 14 feet.
Yeah.
That's a big net.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we used to catch our bait that way. He also taught me how to catch baby crawfish, to use them as bait, and to catch shrimp with bushes that
Yeah.
you put out.
Yeah. You'd hang a bush in the water.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I think you'd use a willow and then you'd come pick up the willow and with a big net underneath, and you had river shrimp.
That's right, that's right, that's correct. And oddly enough, river shrimp formed the basis for most of the food chain structure in the
Yeah.
Atchafalaya Swamp, because there were so many of them, and they were almost always available except in certain conditions. But it was wonderful to be able to learn how to use these things, how to catch these shrimp and use them as bait on trot lines.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And I remember setting trout lines, and you could set out 100 hooks, and you could go, when you got to your last hook, you could go at the beginning, and every hook had a fish.
yes, Harold's memory of that is a lot more fruitful than
Yeah.
mine. I don't remember that running the lines back had that many fish on it, but they did have enough to make it worthwhile to stay at it,
Yeah.
to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
What-
tell us about the people you've interviewed
oh my
for a
goodness.
history of the basin.
Well, how that came about was, if I can go forward a little bit, all right? I was, after being 12 years old in the swamp with Rudd Gajon, it became obvious that my parents thought that in order to make a living, I had to do more than learn to be a fisherman. So they sponsored me to go to college, and I went to UL.
Where you met Fritz.
I met his brother.
Yeah.
I met his brother Fritz there, and we fished and learned how to do things together, Fritz Scheffler and me. And I went to school. My heart wasn't in it. So I stayed about a year and a half and decided fishing was a lot more fun than learning about comparative anatomy. So they asked me, the school asked me to not come back for a while.
Yeah.
So I went to work in doing other things like pipeline construction in the Gulf of Mexico, and other things, and deciding that overall I needed to come back to school. So I did. And I got a bachelor's degree, and that led to a master's degree, and then to a PhD in Arizona State University. That's as far as I got academically. And during that time, I decided what I really wanted to do was go back and learn to fish, learn to make a living fishing, actually support yourself and your family fishing. So I came back to Louisiana from Arizona, and with all this education behind me, I needed another teacher. And I needed a teacher who would be somebody who could teach me how to make a living fishing with trot lines, not nets, not anything, but with trot lines, hooks and lines. Well, I struggled with that by myself for a few weeks, and lo and behold, this fellow came up to my boat. In his boat, it was a fishing boat he had, and he pulled up next to me and he said, in a polite way, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm fishing." He said, "For a living?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm trying to learn to fish for a living, yes." And he looked at what I was doing. He looked at the lines that I had. He looked at the fact that I didn't have any fish in the boat. And he said, "Are you trying to make a living like that?" And it was wonderful. He was 22 years old. I was 32 years old. And he was the boss. I asked him if he would mind if I would be effectively his shadow for as long as it took me to learn how to make a living the way he made a living. And he was luckily one of those people that likes to talk about the fact that they know things. Of course, that describes a great number of
Yeah,
of us.
right.
But he would teach me, he proceeded to tell me what to do to make lines, to get bait, to sell fish, to catch. I mean, it took 6 months for me just to go through the first phase of learning how to fish and selling enough fish to make a living. But after 6 months, I was good enough at it to be able to do that. And I very much am appreciative to that man.
What was his name?
You shouldn't ask me names, things like that in this, because I will come up with it and tell you what his
It wasn't
name.
Vaughn.
No. Oh my goodness.
They were, the Vaughns were
No, not Vaughn.
always shocking
Not Vaughn.
fish.
Well, let me tell you a little bit more
And-
about him, and his name will come up in the conversation. But after he taught me what he could as a line fisherman, that's what his family did for a living, line fishing. And by line fishing, I'm talking about not fishing 100 hooks, but fishing at least 1,000 hooks every day.
Wow.
And that 1,000 hooks was for amateurs like me.
Yeah.
But the people who knew what they were doing, 2,000 and 3,000 hooks was not unusual.
Right.
But this fellow, he taught me what he could to the point to where I could make it on my own, sort of. And then he decided that catfishing was not a thing for him. He wanted to do something else. And what was available was shrimping,
Yeah.
except he didn't have a boat. So this is the kind of people they were. They could do almost anything
Yeah.
with the environment that they had and the skills that were available
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them. So, I mean, it's not as simple as it sounds, but he literally built a shrimp boat.
Cool.
I mean, and the way he did it was a good-sized boat. It was like a 50-foot boat. It wasn't a little boat. He would fish trout lines like he taught me how to do until he saved up enough money to go and buy some wood.
Yeah.
And then he would come back with the wood that he just bought and he would apply it to his boat as he could. Alone he did this.
Cool.
And push comes to shove, he eventually got to the part where he needed an engine in this boat.
Yeah.
And he made enough money fishing to buy an engine for his boat. He installed the engine himself. Joe Sauce was his name.
Wow.
Joe Sauce was his name. He did all that. He invited me, heaven help him, he invited me to be his first deckhand on his first trips to go out and catch shrimp. Well, guess who didn't make it as a deckhand? Me. I got tired when I wasn't supposed to be tired. I had to sleep when I wasn't supposed to sleep. I didn't have the stamina that he required as a deckhand. And so we remained very good friends, but he found somebody who was better at it than I was, and he hired them. But Joe Sauce went along and he made a living with his shrimp boat. Without any background, any training, he did this. In addition, he decided it wasn't enough. He wanted to become a preacher.
Oh, God.
A preacher. Yeah. From the swamp, he wanted to become a preacher. So he found a school in New Orleans. Now, he lived in, you could say, Franklin.
Yeah.
But he found a school in New Orleans, a seminary in New Orleans, that would take him on part-time to where he could pay something and they would have his classes and then he would come back and fish some more till he made enough money to go back and pay them some more and they would teach him some more and eventually the man got a degree,
No
a
kidding.
preacher's degree. He did. He became a full-blown preacher. He did. So from then on, his life was a combination of being a shrimp boat captain and a preacher on the weekends. I mean, how can you? And it was him that came up to me out of nowhere in the swamp and could teach me how to make a living catching catfish. I mean, people like that, I would not have done any better in graduate school with a PhD in a big university. I would not have done any better than that. So, and he is still my friend, even now, and his family is still, we're still friends with him.
So he's 10 years younger than you.
That's right, 10
So
years
you'd be
younger.
76 right now.
That's right.
He's living in Franklin?
Still living in Franklin,
Yeah.
yes, still living in Franklin. Yep.
Is he still preaching there?
He's still preaching. Yep, he sure is. He can do that on weekends, and he doesn't have to fish during the week. They pay him to do that. The Baptist Church pays him to do that.
You remember the tarpon that were in Bayou Pigeon?
Say that again,
The
please.
tarpon.
Tarpons in Bayou Pigeon, yes,
Yeah.
yes. There were tarpon there were tarpon all over the Atchafalaya Swamp. If you were there at the right time of year, and what you caught was, you didn't catch big tarpons, you caught the young tarpon, the baby tarpons,
Yeah.
about that long. And at certain times of the year, they would come up the main channels, and you could catch them. Yes, tarpons. Yeah.
And how would you catch him?
Oh, goodness. Now you're asking me things that are
Yeah.
details.
I remember what we used when we were fishing bass was a little frog-looking bait and a Colorado spinner.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was very, very popular. That's right. There were so many fish in the Atchafalaya Basin. Harold remembers this because we were at the same time and the same age doing these things, but there were so many fish in the Atchafalaya Basin, you almost couldn't go anywhere if you knew how to fish.
yeah.
You almost couldn't go anywhere and catch fish.
Wow.
And not catch fish, I mean. There were many, many weekends where he and I can't speak for him, but I went to the same places that his family did with his brother sometimes.
Yeah.
We caught 200 bass in a Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
You almost grew to expect that.
Yeah. That's right.
You would catch the water at a certain stage when it was draining out of the swamp into the main channels.
Yeah.
And these bass, they all knew this. And they would congregate in schools at the places in the channels where the swamp would empty
Yeah.
into the channel.
Yeah.
And of course, the emptying water coming out of the swamp was carrying little crawfish, it was
Yeah.
carrying little fish, it was carrying all the stuff
The
these
shrimp.
bass, these
Yeah.
big predators, wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And if you knew enough to find those outlets where the swamp was emptying into the channels, he knows.
Yeah.
You could catch all the fish you wanted in a day. And you had to be careful because sometimes you might catch more than you could handle, in which you had to turn some loose. And you did.
And there
Or at
was
least
no-
we did.
there
I
was-
don't know about you.
There were no limits. You didn't
No,
have
there
to
was
go-
no limit on anything.
Yeah.
No limit on anything. Even when I first started hunting, making use of being able to hunt in the basin, there was no limit on growbacks at that time.
Yeah.
They were free for the taking, so to speak.
And you could get them all the time.
Yes,
And then, of course, you never wanted to shoot more than 2 or 3 because.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You wanted to harvest what you could use.
Yeah.
And they'd be around the next time you wanted some, and the next time, so on.
Yeah, I was fishing with, I think, one of my kids, and I had a .22 rifle with me, and a couple of growbacks came by, and it was a single shot, you know.
Mhm.
So I took my time and shot down one of the growbacks, you know,
You did with the
with a
22.
22, yeah. And my son asked me, "Why didn't you shoot those other two?"
Because I had one
Oh, I
bullet.
had one bullet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. The times that Harold had as a growing up person in and around the Atchafalaya Basin and Vermilion Bay
Oh, yeah,
and the places like that, the environment that he had was able to teach him how to appreciate the things that were available to us and how to share these things with other people.
yeah,
And that was important, and that's one of the things I value most about Harold's friendship, is he's the kind of person that other people learn from,
yeah.
and that's good.
I spent 42 years as a scoutmaster, so I did a lot of training
Yeah.
and a lot of canoe trips in the basin. We would go across the basin and you know, during high water, and we could, of course, the canoe is pretty light, you know, so you got the solid ground, you just pulled your way across. You just took a compass course across the basin.
You could do that.
Yeah.
You could do that. Some people,
We came into a lake, and it's a beautiful lake, and I don't think you could have gotten a regular boat into it, you know,
uh-huh,
but the canoes could come into it, you know.
uh-huh, yeah.
And it was, well, I guess one of the prettiest spots in the basin, and it had no lilies or anything like that in it, you know, it was completely clear.
Well, there were, in those days, and probably even today, there were a lot of beautiful places in the basin.
Yeah, yeah,
There were some places where you could go, and Harold has been there, where you could go and see trees that were left over from the harvesting period.
yeah,
And the trees that were left over were damaged. That's the reason they didn't get cut down. But they were either triple trunk or double trunk, and they didn't get harvested for that reason, or for some other reason they had a slight defect.
yeah,
And when the people were harvesting the cypress in the swamp, they didn't take the time to take those slightly damaged trees. So what we have left in the basin now is good, big cypress trees, sometimes double trunked or damaged in some way. But unless you know that there's a imperfection that you're looking at, they just look like gorgeous, beautiful trees now, right?
yeah, and they bought that swamp for nothing, you know. The state, I guess, in 1880, they set up Act 75, and the worst part of it was they set up the state land office, but their job was to sell the state lands, and the swamp land was 12.5 cents an acre.
Yep.
So they took down to one tree, they had their money back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where people constantly are taking advantage of whatever they can to make a living.
Yeah, yeah,
And the better living you can make, the better person you are.
that's right.
So this piece of land, the Atchafalaya Swamp, was big. It was a big, big swamp.
Yeah,
And it was filled with cypress trees and tupelo trees.
yeah,
No willow, almost no willow.
yeah,
And these trees were just sitting there offering, almost offering themselves
yeah,
to be sacrificed for people to cut down and sell for them to make money doing it.
yeah,
And they harvested over a period of this is going to be general, but from a period of about 1885 to 1940, they harvested almost all the cypress trees in the Atchafalaya Swamp.
yeah,
There are some left. Most of them have grown since those trees were the big trees were harvested. But the only big trees that are left that I know of, the original big trees, are those that you can visit now that are not quite perfect.
Yeah, well, Lake Falls Point is the spot that, you have probably thousands of those old trees.
Okay.
And the Sierra Club had a program where they were trying to identify the trees that were living when Louisiana Purchase took place in 1803. So we aged about 10 of them, and 5 of them were over 1,500 years old. And all these trees are hollow, so you have to you measure the circle, the circumference at where the bell goes up, and then you just take a boring, and then you count the number of rings,
The rings.
and then if a tree is 20 feet around, then and a lot of cypress are not like oaks, but so you had 10 of them that were over 1,500 years old, and I would guess that there's trees in there that were alive when Christ was walking the earth.
If they didn't get cut down.
Well, on that side, for some reason, they were never cut.
They were never cut.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a lucky thing
Yeah.
that happened.
And I've proposed making it a national park,
Yep.
to go from Catahoula to, and you have at Catahoula, you have the Forks, and that's a beautiful place. You have
Yep.
oaks,
Yep.
and when you get into the low elevation, you're in cypress, so.
Yep, that's right. It's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place to learn things.
Yeah,
If you can, enjoy.
the Indians battle under those same trees.
Yes, they did. That's exactly true.
And we
That's
think
exactly
of
true.
history of the last 150 years, 200 years,
Yep,
there were people here long before that.
that's right.
And you were involved in tracking all that down.
Oh,
Tell us about your
well,
your 8-pound bullfrogs, and that's on Bayou Portage, huh?
yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right. What Harold's referring to is some of the material that has come my way, that is harvested by other people, but people who know that I have a background in learning about bones, non-human bones, and it's a wonderful thing to be involved in, because these Native Americans, a lot of times in places that they lived, they had a disposal area.
Yeah.
And the disposal area is where the things that weren't edible got
Yeah.
disposed of.
Yeah.
And they used
Like
these.
clamshell.
Yes, clamshells would be one thing. Fish bones is another one.
Yeah.
I have bones from extinct birds in my collection, because the Native Americans harvested these birds
Yeah.
and ate them. But anyway, it's a wonderful thing to be able to take advantage of the fact that people are interested in these deposits, if you will. They find the deposits. Most people are not terribly good at identifying what the bones are beyond the fact that they are bones. So they use people like me to categorize the bones into groups, and it gives you some idea of what the Native Americans were interested in the way of sustenance, if you want to call it that. So,
You found a bullfrog That
Oh.
was around 8 pounds?
Yes, yes, yes. One of the things you can do is with these bones, frog bones, bird bones, any other kind of bones, one of the things you can do is get a basic idea of the size of the whole animal from the size of certain bones. And one of the bones you can do that with is the femur bone. And there were bones of bullfrogs in some of these Native American sites that indicated that the frog itself, when it was alive, weighed 8 pounds. Now, think about an 8-pound bullfrog. And to say that this was different, it wasn't. These were the same species of frog that we have now. But we no longer have the big, big, big ones. Why not? Well, if you're a Native American and you're harvesting these frogs, which ones do you pick? The biggest ones you find.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, they were able to reduce the population with respect to the big, big frogs to where it was mostly the medium-sized frogs.
Yeah.
And we end up with what we have now, which is big bullfrog, but it's not 8 pounds. It's more like 2 pounds. So that's what Harold's talking about.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can, things like that are very interesting to certain people, and I'm one of them that is interested in what bones can tell us.
Yeah.
So,
So what do you think about the changes in the basin? And
well,
I think the biggest change was the dredging. I think we had 28 hydraulic dredges, and they were dredging the super channel,
yeah.
and that changed the whole world. I was in the service at the time, but I went into service, I guess, in '61, and I served 4 years in the Air Force. But it was in that period that they changed the world. And I think the goal was to get 90% of the flow to go down the main channel. And I think we changed the world when we started building dams up the country. And the thing that affected the basin was the damming of the Red River.
Yeah.
Yeah, that changed it.
Yes.
Because when there was a flood on the Red River, the basin would be red.
Yeah, that's right.
And the fishing would go like crazy.
Yep, that's right. That's correct. People have a tendency to modify whatever they can.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to find a reason, a justification for modifying a water body because you can make it do things if you have enough power, equipment to do those things.
Yeah.
And when it got to the point to where in the 1850s, 1860s, we began to acquire enough things, that is we, people, acquired the tools.
Yeah, the steam dredge.
The steam dredge, exactly. All those things that could make big changes to a water body in a relatively short period of time. Well, people are people. If you can do it, a lot of people think then you should do it, regardless of the wisdom
consequences. Yeah.
of doing it.
Yeah.
They do it anyway. Well, the fact that they harnessed the Atchafalaya Basin after the 1927 flood.
Yeah.
The 1927 flood caused a lot of damage, caused a lot of people to be uprooted, so to speak. And the Corps of Engineers and the United States government, because they could by this time, they could use the tools that were available to them to modify the flow of something as big as the Atchafalaya and the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did that.
They built dams all over the country.
They built dams and levees.
Yeah,
And the dams were, of course, modifying the flow of a stream through itself.
yeah,
The levees were modifying the flow of a stream as it expanded when it was swollen by
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
like so. And we ended up with the situation that we have now, which some people would say is a better situation than we had then. Some people, like us, would say, well, maybe that's questionable as to whether it's better.
yeah,
But we live in the world that we have. And to people who were born now, born today, and grew up 20 years from now, or much less than that, they'll grow up in a world that inherits the situation that you and I find difficult.
yes,
But they'll accept that, more than likely, as the real way things are.
yeah, yeah,
And we can say it's a shame, we can say that it doesn't give them the expanse of experience that we have had available to us.
yeah,
But it is the world they live in.
yeah,
My grandchildren, your grandchildren, that's the world, it's different
yeah,
than ours.
yeah.
We don't have to like it, but it's different. So,
So were you around when they were doing all that dredging? Or were you in school?
most of the time I was in school, in college, when they did most of the dredging. The first thing they did was build the levees.
Yeah, they
And-
finished that in 35.
There you go.
Yeah.
And once they built the levees, they had the water confined.
Yeah,
But you still had a lot of flow between streams
yeah,
in the basin.
yeah,
Bigger streams, smaller streams feeding bigger streams, making them bigger, whatever. And the Corps of Engineers decided that you could control, am I talking too loud?
yeah.
I am. Okay. The Corps of Engineers decided that they could control the potential damage that floods could cause in the future by controlling the amount of water that would flow at any one time in a bayou or a river. And they developed an expertise at doing that. Some of us think that it's a matter of time before the Atchafalaya and the Mississippi come to terms with each other about which one is going to carry the load, so to speak. And it's a well-known probability that the shortest distance to open water will be where the stream flows.
Yeah,
The shortest distance to open water. And right now, I wish we had a picture to show you visually what we're talking about here, but
yeah,
right now, the Atchafalaya River is a much shorter distance to open water
Yeah.
than the Mississippi
it
is.
is. I think where it divides, it's like 370 miles to the Gulf through the Mississippi. It's about 150 miles through the Atchafalaya and the Wax Lake outlet.
Something like that, something
Yeah.
like that. So it's a lot less, it takes a lot less energy to get to the Gulf of Mexico if you're in the Atchafalaya River, a lot less energy than it takes if you're in the Mississippi River. You have to flow further with a lot of things to go through and around. The Atchafalaya, unfortunately, if it does that at any time in our lifetime,
Yeah,
where I live, it's not going to be a good place to live.
no,
Because Carolyn, my wife, and I live on the Atchafalaya River itself. We watch it come up and down. And sometimes it gets a little scary, but as long as the Corps of Engineers is able to maintain a sort of dominance over the conditions in those rivers, we're okay.
yeah,
But-
what's happening is the Wax Lake outlet is capturing the flow.
Yeah,
And
that's
it-
right.
And from the 6 Mile Lake to the intracoastal is scoured to 100 feet. And from the intracoastal to the bay, it's maintained its 50-foot depth, and the intracoastal has become a major tributary of the Atchafalaya going west. It was the intracoastal was dredged 12 by 150, and you can go. You can. We checked the flow when we were a couple of years ago. My brother Bob was. He passed away in the river. But anyway, we were checked. We were just. It was during the flood, the high water, and the flow rate right below the bridge, the Highway 90 bridge, was at 5.8 miles an hour, and we got below the intracoastal. The intracoastal was kept capturing half of that, so it was running at 2 or 3 miles an hour, and then below the intracoastal, the Wax Lake goes to the bay, and there's a wax delta, and the flow rate was down to 2 or 3 miles an hour.
Mhm.
At the same time, we went east to a point approximately 500 feet below the bridge in Morgan City, and it was running at 1.25 miles an hour. So we've changed that whole world.
Mhm.
And the Wax Lake outlet, I think the bridge right now is a major problem because the piers stop at 100 feet.
Mm.
So you go 500 feet below the piers, the bridge, and it's 108 feet. And you can go 500 feet above the bridge, and it's about 90 feet. So it's just the shallowest part of that whole thing from the 6 Mile Lake to the intracoastal is right at that bridge.
Mm.
But it's just a matter of time before those piers collapse. And their solution is they've designed a underwater. I think they had the engineer that is working on it with me is David Uval, and he's trying to get a drawing of what they plan. They've not gone to bid, but they have designed a weir, underwater weir that would they put in front.
Mhm. Yeah.
And of course, a hydrologist would quickly tell them you're doing the wrong thing. You can accelerate if you got a 6 mile an hour flow. It's going to go to 7, 8 miles an hour right under that bridge.
Well, I'm glad that Harold knows these things.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I don't know these things. And the reason I say that is Carolyn and I do literally live right on the Atchafalaya River. And sometimes it's better that you not know things like that, what the threats can be.
Well, the threat is to the bridge, and then, the Atchafalaya, when you get above American Pass, you could go out there and it's a big sandbar.
Mhm.
You got sandbars with willows growing on it right in the middle of the river.
Mhm.
Now, they dredged it 100 feet in 58 to 62.
Mhm.
So, and then you got sandbars on either side, and the channel capacity is only goes 8 feet, and it's about 300 feet wide. and between the sandbars. Right now, a boat can go up, but they don't want to go down. Because if they run aground, they're going up current. They can come off of it, you know. But if you run it down current, even a mile an hour flow is not going to help you.
Well, the fact remains that none of this is stable. None of this is permanent.
No.
And we can try to nudge it in one direction or another to try to provide certain conditions that we think are beneficial. But when it comes down to it, a big flood, a big storm, a big change in the water course could make changes in the system that we know today.
Yeah.
And it's highly likely that a change like that will come. Now, whether or not it comes in time to influence us, hopefully not.
Yeah.
But this river it's not a dead thing. It's a live thing. It lives where it lives. Sometimes it's not happy where it lives, and it changes where it lives. That's what would happen if our house was no longer habitable. It would change to the Atchafalaya River, which means we would have to leave. Hopefully, we would leave in time.
During the last flood, during the 73 flood, we almost lost the main structure.
Yeah.
And since then, we've put something like 32 more dams.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Overland Dam, and then there's the Vidalia Power Plant Dam, and then you got the auxiliary. And so, but during the flood of 2019, the river, we had the flood of 73, the river went to 54, and Simsport was at 53.
Yeah.
Right now, the river went to 65 in the 2019 flood,
Mm-hmm.
and they could only get the river in the Atchafalaya at Simsport with all these gates wide open and a 25-foot head. They could only raise it to 41.
Yeah. Well, in 73, that happened in my lifetime, and yours too, of course. And I was a commercial fisherman. I was beginning to learn to be a commercial fisherman at that time, so I was paying attention to the levees. The water was coming up, it was coming up, it was coming up, and during the height of the flood in 73, my recollection, for what it's worth, was that it got within 3 feet of the top of the levee at Meehead Point.
Yeah, yeah,
And think about that. This is a big levee. This is a tall levee. This is not a little bitty structure. And for the water to flow up to within 3 feet of the top of that levee, and I could go and walk up the good side of the levee where it was away from the water, and I walked up toward the top of the levee and put my hand up against the soil 3 feet from the top of the levee. And you could feel the levee shake.
wow.
You could feel it vibrating with your hand. And it really impressed you that there was something very dynamic that was going on the other side of that levee from where I was standing.
Yeah,
So it wasn't something that was a fable. This was real. This was nature working its way through things.
yeah,
So I very much appreciate being able to experience that. I very much don't want to experience it again. But just feeling the dramatic potential that swamp has under its own terms. It didn't build levees on its own. It didn't rain on the watershed on its own. It just is that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to live with. Thankfully, it didn't flood our house, but it came very close. Yeah.
Was your house there in 73?
No,
No.
no. No, that was another smaller flood in, when was that? It was
19.
92?
2019.
Well, I'm thinking of the one that made us leave home.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that huge, but it was a potentially serious flood that might have come into our house if it kept going. It turned out not to. It stopped before it flooded our house.
Yeah.
But it sure made you think about the wisdom of being there.
Yeah.
It really did.
And we tend to think there won't be any more floods, you know.
Well, that's
so-
it. That's
Right,
it.
so,
So you're paying your price, you pay the price and you take your chances.
so share with us your, what you tried to do with recording the history
Oh,
of the basin.
okay, all right.
Through you interviewing people.
Yeah, what Harold's referring to is when I decided to learn to be, as much as I could, learn to be a successful commercial fisherman. I adopted a routine that all the other fishermen used, and that is in most of the year, you went out in the morning, and you fished, and you run your trout lines, you got your bait, you did all that, you got your fish in your boat, you came back to the landing, you got your fish and weighed them, and there was a person at the landing who would take your fish and pay you for them, 25 cents a pound. That's what you were getting for catfish at that time.
Yeah.
But you did that, and you went home, and you were happy with that. Now, I forgot where I was going with this.
You tried to,
About
about recording all these
Oh, okay,
people.
yes, thank you, appreciate it. This is the way it is when you get old. But anyway, one of the things I did when we would bring our fish in, I would sit at the table with a kitchen table with 3 or 4 other commercial fishermen. They were much older than I am, much more experienced than I was. But they would talk about things. They would talk about their lives. They would talk about the things that they were noticing about the swamp. And I was listening to all this, and it was information that I had no idea what they were talking about, but I was really interested in it. So I bought a little tape recorder. In those days, tape recorder was, the smallest ones were this wide and this long and this thick.
Yeah, now you can use your phone.
You could.
Yeah.
But I put the tape recorder on the table where we were all sitting waiting to get paid in this man's houseboat kitchen. And these men were talking about the history of things and stuff that was ongoing. And I turned that little tape recorder on and let it run. I didn't say anything, but they filled those tapes. It turned out they were terrified that I was taping this, and I told them I did it because I was too dumb to be able to remember all the stuff that they were saying. So I wanted to make a record of it, and after a little while, they forgot about the tape recorder, and I ended up making 99 tapes, audio tapes, of conversations with people like those men around that
And they were
table.
all catfishermen.
All catfishermen, from the history, and the thing that was beautiful about it was, a lot of these men did not have the benefit of being able to read and write.
Yeah.
So what they had developed was a magnificent memory of things,
Yeah.
things that they knew from the past, things that their people told them. And they shared those things, and I have those things on tape.
That's fantastic.
And that's the value that I think it
Yeah.
is.
So,
I've interviewed almost 100 people now.
right.
And,
We're at the end of our program, so thank you, Jim.
oh, you're very welcome. There's more.
Yeah,
Okay.
you bring back fond memories.
Well, I'm glad.
I've spent a lot of time catfishing just like you,
Yep.
but I bet I caught a lot bigger catfish than you did.
Okay. You very probably